NFL DFS Showdown Monday Night Lineup Advice for FanDuel and DraftKings. I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, $1 million single game winner. Here to talk to you quickly, look at a first look at tonight's single game slate between the Cowboys and the Giants. Be sure to follow us everywhere at Occupy Fantasy. Be sure to click that subscribe button at the bottom if you're not subscribed on YouTube to make sure you get the latest videos. This is going to be a 10-minute video, I promise. I know I've been saying that, and we've been striving to hit that 10-minute mark. I think we got to 11 minutes last time, so we'll see if we can get it under 10 minutes today. What we'll do is take a quick look at the top plays for tonight. Think about what the field will be doing in larger contests and in low-risk contests as well, and then see where we can pivot. The daily plug on OccupyFantasy.com is our write-up that actually goes through each play in detail and is a lot more thought through to give advice for both low-risk and high-risk lineups as well as contests to target. That'll be up by 2 p.m. Eastern on OccupyFantasy.com. When it's up, the link will be in the description below. So tonight we have the Cowboys as a 7-point road favorite, 48-point total against the Giants. And first thought for me, low-risk lineups, we like to get in both quarterbacks. We like to get in both running backs to lock up nearly 100% of the team's scoring. And if you look tonight, that's going to be nearly impossible no matter which site you play on. Because if you look on DraftKings, even if we use a creative captain, a kicker, or a defense to jam in the studs. So let's just say tonight we put in Cowboys kicker, Brett Maher at captain, and we want to jam in the top 4 plays: Elliott, Barkley, Dak, Daniel Jones. That leaves us with 2,600. I guess actually we could go with the Giants defense. However, to me that leaves off one of the highest floor plays per dollar, and that's the Cowboys defense. So this is a pretty risky approach, I think, because we're leaving out the Cowboys defense, captaining a kicker. It is certainly something you could do, but I think, looking at our model, looking at projections, you want to get definitely the Cowboys defense in there, and that makes it kind of tough. So you have to get a little more creative. Odds are you'll probably have to leave out Daniel Jones, who is the lowest rated of the big 4 in our model. But again, leaving out a quarterback in a low-risk lineup is a pretty sketchy move. If you go over to FanDuel, very similar process. So if you use Dak, Saquon, Zeke, Daniel Jones, you have an incredible $3,000 left over, which is not something you can do. And even if you remove Daniel Jones and use kicker Brett Maher, who's a high floor play on FanDuel, 7K. There's no high floor plays at that position in that price range at 7K. So FanDuel super tough in low risk, DraftKings super tough in low risk. So what does that mean? Maybe we don't play low risk contests tonight. I know that may seem crazy, but at Occupy Fantasy, we're all about tailoring your strategy to that specific slate. And depending on what the player pool and betting markets and our Occupy model is telling us, we should play different contest types. So tonight, I think, and again, this will go in detail in the daily plug, but this looks like a primarily high-risk night, which means lowered bankroll allocation. Not going to spend too much of our bankroll tonight. Really just take some high-risk shots. Try to get some tickets in satellites and maybe in some leagues and max the GPPs. Try to hit a big score. Take some really low-dollar, low-risk shots at a big payday. So if we're going back to DraftKings, okay, and we're looking at high-risk contests tonight. So high-risk, what does that mean? Satellites that award a big ticket, leagues, contests, 100, 200 players, where the payouts are incremental, and obviously GPPs, 3 max, single entry, 20 max, 150 max. What are most people going to do tonight? That's what we love to look at in high-risk single game. So let's think about it here. 7-point favorites for the Cowboys. What does that mean for a normal slate? Running back, going to be used a lot. Zeke, workhorse running back. Imagine Zeke will be one of the most popular captains. 7-point favorite. Defense. Cowboys, not as crazily priced, 5,400 as we've been seeing with the Patriots and the Vikings and all these other teams that have been priced in the 8K range. So 5,400, a little bit of a discount here, and I imagine they'll be pretty popular as a captain and in flex as a result. We'll need to think about how we want to handle that in our own high-risk lineups, because they're not as priced as crazy as they have been, but they are on the road, and we know they'll be pretty popular. So I think in flex they make a good amount of sense, especially given the guys around them. And but 20% captain for a defense is always pretty crazy. So we know Zeke, we know the Cowboys defense. I imagine Dak will be pretty popular too as a captain on a high total team. As a quarterback on a high total team. And he's the third highest priced guys tonight. So a little bit of savings relative to his upside. So I think he'll be pretty popular too. So if we're looking to pivot away from those three, if we decide that they're not worth their respective ownership, Barkley, he'll probably check in as number 4, I'd imagine, as a 7-point dog and a pretty high price guy. So Barkley is a captain. Remember, this is a high total game, so we like to look at receivers and captain spots in high total games. So tonight, Amari Cooper, potentially Michael Gallup, who's been pretty productive in his limited playing time this year. He missed a few weeks. Golden Tate, who's been dominating opportunity with Sterling Shepard, who is once again out tonight for the Giants, so Golden Tate will be their number 1 receiver. Evan Ingram at tight end. Dallas does allow the 5th or 6th most fantasy points to tight end, and while we generally don't look at fantasy points allowed to position, tight ends is the one where it's a little more predictive than the others for the second half of the season. I don't think you need to dig that much deeper into the player pool to look at captains. If you look down here, let's take a look. Darius Slayton did, even though he caught 2 touchdowns last week, he's still underperforming his air yards a bit over the past 3 or 4 weeks. And he'll get some more playing time. He played 80% of the snaps last week with Sterling Shepard out. Cody Latimer played 50% of the snaps, got a few targets against Detroit in their last game. So I could see him being in play, and these $800, $1,000 players on DraftKings have been slate breakers recently. Nick Boyle last night for the Ravens. But other than that, you have a bunch of part-time players here. Blake Jarwin, Wayne Gallman, even Tavon Austin, Tony Pollard are going to see 15 snaps at most. And these guys are priced up a little more, Pollard and Austin specifically. So Giants defense does rank pretty high in our model. I know they're underdogs, and Dallas has a pretty high total. But as we see, defenses generally go under-owned, especially underdog defenses in Showdown. And it's kind of crazy because it's the correlation is insane between price and ownership. The higher price the defense is, the higher their ownership is. The lower they are, the lower their ownership is. It's basically a sliding scale. It's pretty interesting phenomenon that we've seen so far this season. So keep that in mind. And as we see these lower price defenses, they always go under-owned in high-risk contests. All right, that'll do it for tonight. I think we hit the 10-minute mark. What a surprise, what an accomplishment. So if you're interested in more information, the daily plug on OccupyFantasy.com will be up by 2 p.m. Eastern. Memberships as low as $2 per week to get access to my full thoughts on tonight's slate, a bit more research and in-depth discussion on the top plays, as well as lineup advice for low-risk and high-risk contests. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at OccupyFantasy for any updates. Be sure to follow me at Brian Jester FF. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube if you're not already. Click that red subscribe button. Get notified of our latest videos. If you like what we did here, click that like button. We'd appreciate it. And if you think we can improve in any way, or if you have a question specifically about tonight's slate, drop a comment below. We'll get back to them before the slate starts tonight at 8:20. Also, check out our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/OccupyFantasy. I finished second in the FanDuel Million yesterday to take home $100,000. I will be reviewing my lineup that won it, my lineup strategy in general from yesterday's Week 9 slate, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern in our $1 Million mission on twitch.tv. So follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/OccupyFantasy. You'll be notified when we go live there too. So I'm Brian. I appreciate you listening. Good luck tonight, and we will talk to you soon.